now it's time to have our panel discussion on the topic entrepreneurship and social ventures, which is then followed by the keynote address. I would request the panelists to take the stage, after which I'll introduce each of them. Mr. Vivek Prabhakar, Mr. Amlik Singh, Mr. Naga Prakasam, Ms. Shruti Vijayaraghavan, and Mr. Srinivasan Krishnaswamy. I shall introduce the first panelist, Mr. Srinivasan Krishnaswamy. The speaker is from the IIMB class of 2001 and the co-founder of Kriya, along with his partner Preeti Sukumaran. Incidentally, this partner happened to have admissions in both B and C, but she chose C. Back to the speaker. Kriya is India's first startup in the environmentally sustainable consumer product space and hopes to help Indians in the quest towards sustainable urban living. Simple daily actions like doing the laundry or taking a shower can be a mindful experience with Kriya's products. Kriya products, the company claims, are both awesome for the user and has a clean environmental footprint. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from IIMB class of 2001, the co-founder of Kriya, Mr. Srinivasan Krishnaswamy. Next on the panel is a speaker who is the CEO and founder of Chumbak Design Private Limited. He is a brand and retail marketing man. Before Chumbak, he was part of the charter team responsible for the turnaround at Tanishq. Post this, his stint included FabMart, Platinum Guild International, Motorola, and head of partner marketing at Sun Microsystems. He is presently on the dream mode, living his dream of making Chumbak a global design brand. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO and co-founder of Chumbak Design, Mr. Vivek Prabhakar. The lady in the panel, I'd like to invite a seasoned strategy professional with more than 18 years of experience in strategy and general management. She currently consults with McKinsey and other clients in the real estate and infrastructure sectors, all the while trying to move the needle in the affordable housing space. Though unsuccessful, she tried to research and test technologies and aggregation models for low-cost housing through her own development firm. She also serves as an industry advisor to our institution in the Real Estate Research Initiative that aims to bridge the gap between government, practitioners, and academicians on high-impact topics in real estate. She has traveled to more than 55 countries and hopes to retire in her homestead in the hills. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this engineer from PGS College of Technology and a master's degree holder from Carnegie Mellon and from IIM Bangalore, Ms. Shruti Vijayaraghavan. Next, we have a panel member and the founder and CEO of Mountain Trail Foods Private Limited, and you might know this brand, Chai Point. An MBA from Harvard Business School, he worked as the country manager at RSA, in business development and strategy for AMC Corporate, working out of Boston and Singapore, then in Microsoft Corporation in diverse roles and capacities. As the head of his business, which he now heads, he manages hiring and development, packaged product development, tea blends, bottled tea chai, and tea sourcing, partnerships, and real estate. Dear alumni, please welcome the founder and CEO of Mountain Trail Foods and brand custodian of Chai Point, Mr. Amlik Singh Bijral. This gentleman shall moderate the panel. He is a versatile and passionate leader with 2+ decades of global experience and the moderator of today's panel discussion. As a full-time angel investor, he invested in 14 startups and has seen 3 exits. With his mantra being startup should focus on India's strengths, people, problems, technology. He's traveled extensively in rural areas. He has delivered C.K. Prahlad's memorial address lecture at World Co-Creation Day and has been awarded Successful Person 2015 by Sangam 4, Chennai. He is also a partner at Acumen, a New York-based 100 million impact venture fund, executive chairman at Native Lead Angels Network by Native Lead Foundation, which enables entrepreneurs in rural Tamil Nadu, and advisor to IIHR Bangalore Incubator for agripreneurs. His investments include Luminaire Organic, Fresh World, UP Hor, Go Co-op, Rainstock amongst many others. This speaker is a mentor in residence at the Institute's NSRCEL. Please welcome the moderator of the panel discussion today, Mr. Naga Prakasham.
It's going to be pretty hard to entertain you, all of you, but we will try our best and picking up probably some of the unconventional topics and see if we can probably, when we're discussing, talk about things which is not covered on a day-to-day, right? Most of the time when you see everywhere, the media, everywhere, the celebration is on success, right? So can we touch up a little bit around what's happening in the challenges, right? So the last panel meeting we had a few months back, people always say there's a hindsight on mistakes. But many people said there is a hindsight on success as well. It was not from the day one I figured out this is where I'm going. It's all hunky-dory, as you see in their victory speeches. But we'll touch upon a little bit. Before that, look at around the entrepreneurship side of it. Quick survey. How many are entrepreneurs in the audience? All right, good. People in the corporate sector, employed? All right, cool. And how many want to become entrepreneur in the next few years or just right now after this panel? Yeah. Wow, very few. Okay, so our goal is to motivate you, that's it, right? So, but we are going to scare you, not going to scare you with challenges, but all of them are face the challenges, but they figured out. So we'll figure out, we'll learn from them what's happening. But if you look at quickly around why this topic of entrepreneurship, there's quite a lot of euphoria and going on in the press and media. We are going to stay away from that, right? And also there are no 26-year-old in the panel, so there is no headline news for anybody from any media. So we're going to probably look at the deeper issues and how to build up solid businesses and where there is some other, focus around the apps end of the world, right? You just write an app and you're done. So these guys have built pretty strong businesses from the scratch. And coming back to the entrepreneurial thinking in the whole country, I'm part of an angel group. A few years back, we did a research for the government to understand the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We've realized that the financial sector created negative jobs in the last decade. And you saw the IT side of it, it's plateauing it. So one of the answers for the younger youth and the aspirations of the middle class coming up, we decided that, we kind of recommended that entrepreneurship is the way to go. We've said the country needs 10,000 startups, right? So that's where you saw some of the brand names coming up, starting more and more emphasis around entrepreneurial thinking. So that is the thought process. And I'm sure a lot of you are in a comfort zone. Can I give up this cushy job? Is it how it has been? I always call in a startup CEO, it's called Chief Everything Officer, because I got an army of people in my office, taking care of things. But here I'm kind of, catching a bucks to Hubli and trying to sell some stuff, right? So this is where these people have done. So we're going to probably pick up some of that and go a little bit deeper around how the journey's been and how they overcome that. So before that, I'll give you some examples, right? So about the point that mentioned about what I strongly believe in is about playing on India's strength, right? So any guess what is India's strength? People, what else? Okay, aspirations, middle class people, yeah. What else? What is it? Growing, okay, all right. What else? Sorry? Oh, yeah, okay, so that's my thing that you got let out. Yeah, that's good. That's what else? Chaos, yeah, problems, right? So you saw that we were laughing about the traffic problem in Bangalore, right? We have 2 companies incubated in Bangalore trying to solve that in NSRCEL. So this is where I'm talking about is that even though we are looking at this growth, we are G20 and all that, I always say that in India, there is this side, there is Germany and the US, and there is Africa somewhere in the middle, right? So we are a developing, and we will be developing kind of country. So all the above is what India is. But the numbers are appalling, right? Today we have 70 crore people using wood to cook food, right? 300 million go to bed without food. And you see this high rises, but whenever it go to Mumbai and land in the daytime, it's depressed because Mumbai is becoming a blue city, right? You see this blue sheets covering all the shanties. So this is where, all these problems, how we are going to attack all that. And if you are not able to solve that, then you are going to see the problem what we are seeing in Jharkhand. So I was there a few months back. There is an Audi showroom like 20 kilometers from Ranchi. But 20 kilometers from there, people are disturbed, right? There's no food to eat. So this is what the India we are living in. And this is what we need, building in India in an entrepreneurial way. So that learn from the mistakes of the developed countries, what we can create something from understanding the problems and what do we need. And we all relatively better at technology, so which helps in scaling the solution that we are trying to provide. So with that, I'm going to probably, with that blue city comment, I'm going to go to Shruti. So if you look at that, the real estate, anyone in the real estate business? Okay, except the Godrej, that's also gone. Fantastic. All right, good. So we know that it's kind of a black box. Is it a mafia? And you saw that the building that I bought, when it's going to get demolished, right? So whether at the mercy or what it is. So with all that going on, then there is this increased amount of urbanization happening. There is people coming in. They don't have skills, and they ended up living in the shanties. So that is where I think Shruti picked up. One is around this low-cost or affordable housing, right? Can you give your input about why did you pick that up and what's your challenges? I know it's not great area to be in, and what is driving you still?
So I moved back to India after 8 years overseas in 2007 and to head strategy and business development for a developer in Bombay called Lodha Group. Every single presentation that we made over the next 2-3 years was about the 22 million housing shortage in India. What none of us ever mentioned in that was that 19 of that million was in a segment that none of us were actually ever planning to give housing to, or to, in a market-based way, provide housing for in an economically viable way. So I spent 3 years doing this, and I kind of felt like, you're in India, you're seeing all of this happening, and we also bid for the Dharavi slum rehabilitation project at that point in time. So I actually went and lived for a week in the Dharavi slums. And I think at some point in time, my mind just kind of clicked, no idea clicked. The magnitude of the problem clicked in my head. The need clicked in my head. Tremendous amount of, obviously a huge problem, a huge need for government plus industry to participate in some way, huge need for policy reform, just everything that you find about everything in India, right? Whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's housing. So I left them and I started, kind of consulting, pulling together stuff on low-cost housing, on affordable technology, stuff like that. And I found I was making presentations all the time, but really the supply of low-cost housing hadn't changed in the last 7 years I've been in India, right? It just doesn't happen. So kind of plunged into this a year and a half ago. It's been lots of downs, very few ups so far, in actually saying we'll try and adapt technologies from overseas. We'll try some aggregation models on the demand side, and actually got into being a real estate developer in a small project in Hosur myself. And with the worst possible way to do this in the worst sector, putting in my own money, right? So, but we said we want to try, test. We don't want too many presentations of the million homes that you can build in India, and too few of it happening on the ground. And I'd love to say that we've pivoted in real terms. We've probably seen so many downs. I've sat in kind of in the Panchayat office for 2 months to get approval, eventually landed up bribing the guy. So lots of, the sand mafia, it's real. It's on the ground. You negotiate with them every day to get sand to your site. And I think we learned a lot of things on the way, and we are trying to pivot now and saying, land, you can't control that cost. I can control how I execute. So let's look for those situations where we can have new technologies, and but land doesn't become our primary, gating factor. So working now on a project in Uttarakhand for post-disaster housing, as well as access and footbridges through, again, technology answer, which is lower cost compared to what we do in India now, and with execution very much under our control. So there's no fun marketplaces in this area. It's all, you kind of got to go out there and do it. So that's kind of where I am at. So no answers yet, but a year and a half in, and hoping I feel passionate enough and I'm old enough in my 40s that I can last.
So many of you raise your hand and you are in a corporate career, but the Alumni Association organized this event so that there is some kind of focus. All of you are probably pretty full auditorium. So that shows that, okay, you're trying to figure out that can I jump in, right? All this comfort zone, what I have, is there a fear that will I survive? So all that things are all going around, and we were, talking about this opportunity cost, right? All of you with the credentials and all of it, we have this many startups coming to us for funding. You will see that, oh, by the way, I've invested this much, and I need you to fund me so then I can quit my job. Then I take this, whatever the salary I have, this MNC is giving me, then I will do the startup, right? So is this the way things works? You saw the story about, living in a slum. I have a startup that we're mentioning in Chennai. This guy had an Oxford degree, but lived in a slum for 1 year to understand the auto driver behavior, to create a startup to solve the problem. He says that from the same slum, people are working in, 5-star hotels. It's the same slum that people are in auto rickshaw. So why the behavior difference, right? So this is where the thing, and that's deeper. People are getting in, but the rewards are fantastic, right? So I want to just probably, touch upon Amlik, right? If you look at that, dealing with the cyber hackers with the RSA, thousands of PhDs, trying to solve that problem. But suddenly he is there, I don't know if it's too much of coffee at RSA, he's now chai now, right? So can you just probably, motivate, probably end of this panel, I would see that instead of this 5 hands raising, we want to get probably, 20 or 30 guys raising, saying that I want to go jump in. Amlik.
It was a very capitalistic drive which took us to enter and took us to build a brand around chai. It's a 33,000 crore market. It's going to be 60,000 crores by 2020 by say several estimates. Even if they're wrong, they'll be 40,000 crore. So, there is no socialistic, NGO-ish kind of blood in me, which kind of prompted me to send that. So, we realized, we made a lot of mistakes, but we got into it to build a brand. We saw a very large market. What I learned from technology is that scale is very important. Large market size is important. And there was a very clear gap, right? Chai is 15 cups of chai to 1 glass of coffee. You have everybody building coffee stores thinking that you'll put in plush sofas and great lighting and everybody will just start taking in coffee. It's not going to happen, because what's also happening now is the same marketing headwind is coming in the favor of tea. You've got Oprah Chai, you've got Starbucks opening tea stores, you've got Starbucks buying tea companies, everybody is talking about green tea. So even marketing is swaying, right? So, and we got into it. And of course, we realized that when we started, we thought we'll build a sort of a blue collar brand. And again, very opportunistic. We thought low rentals, let's go to, sort of very populated, low rental areas and open up the store. But then we realized after 1.5 years, that you can't build a brand for that segment, right? And I've got nothing against the segment. I'm just speaking very, very objectively that, India is a highly aspirational country. The number of young people are really there. Very large numbers. They all want to aspire high. They want to say, I want to get Nike. I want to get Puma. Whether the person can afford it or not, it's a separate thing. So we realized very quickly that when you're trying to build a brand, by its very definition, a brand has to be aspirational. You want to have that brand. Now, if you try to build a brand for the blue segment, right, in that kind of areas, they're not going to aspire for it. So net, your end goal of building a brand is going to get defeated. I'm not saying that there is no business opportunity there. Huge amount of business opportunity. But to build a brand is not possibly the right fit, especially in F&B, because they're all moving up. They want to move up. So about 1.5 years of kind of trying that model, we said that, that's not the right place. So we moved on to white collar, and now we are very aggressively, kind of focused on the white collar working Indian, because, every blue collar wants to be a white collar. So, and that's where the brand needs to be placed. This whole talk of, entrepreneurship is a very sexy sort of word. Everybody likes to talk about it, but I think there's a lot of bullshit also in it. So fundamentally, it's about courage and leadership. It can be in anything. It can be in a social thing. It can be in a, some company in India is trying to, Indus company, a fantastic company, they're aiming to go to moon, right? I mean, and the mission, that Google prize. You talk about guys like Elon Musk, who are doing that's courage. That's like fantastic. So the courage is there in every sector. You can be in the corporate world and you can be very, very courageous, challenging your CEO. And I think to me that's very important. The other thing I also say is that it's not a one-man thing. I mean, that's also another thing that I feel kind of gets missed, right? Okay, there's somebody who's thinking of the idea, but I'd be lying if I said that I was the first one to think of the idea. Most likely I got it from one or two of my friends and we were just talking about it. So I can't even say honestly that I have a claim to the idea. So what did I do? I just said, okay, let's do it. But then could we really kind of take it to the next level if, the second person who followed and third, fourth, fifth had not joined in? Absolutely no. I mean, Bill Gates, I think one of his recent quotes when he was still working in Microsoft, he made that statement, you take top 10 people out of Microsoft and we are not a company to really look up to. Top 10. And the Microsoft revenue at that point was some $30-40 billion. This holds true for everything.
So while we are at that, right? So if you look at that, probably the 300 years of brainwash, and we are trying to be not Indian, right? So we want everything which is not Indian. We want to be appearing. If the product is so expensive, let's get a knockoff version of it, right? So when we are looking at that, and we all want English colors, so here is the person, in the corporate side, and figured out this is what we are, right? Can we celebrate who we are rather than we are not? And he made a fantastic success, right? Getting this color, this bright yellow colors, and having people having ownership or the pride about who we are, right? Finally, there is an auto as a souvenir, in a mall. So that's made possible by Vivek. So how was the journey, Vivek? Why that thing? Is it a visionary thought from the day one, or you just figured out on the way?
Honestly, I think so. I just touch upon before I say this about the motivation part. So here's the thing. Entrepreneurship isn't easy, right? It's one of the loneliest things that you will ever do in your life, and one of the toughest things that you'll ever do in your life. Lot of time there is no money. A lot of time you're giving up, not giving up, you are like, there is no weekends, there are no friends, there's no social, nothing. There's constant doubt, there's constant who do I turn to, there's constant all of that stuff. And I think the motivation part of it is, honestly, it's not going to come from people outside, right? The motivation, what he talked about courage. The other thing that I'd like to add to it is passion, right? That has to come from within. No one can ever motivate you to do something that you don't want to do or you're not passionate. So I think passion is something that's the number one thing that drives you through all the downsides of entrepreneurship. I keep telling people it's a lot of hard work. You can ask anyone else, about 80-90% of our time goes in looking for good people to hire, right? And one of the things that I constantly ask people is, what's your passion? Are you passionate about something, at least that I can, take that passion and then convert it into something that we can work here at Chumbak. And there are late nights. I keep joking about it, but it's half serious that this isn't Kajal. These are dark circles, right? I sleep 5 hours a day, and sometimes I feel that's too much. So I think, so coming back to the problem, so basically entrepreneurship is tough, but once you get going, you'll never want to go back to anything else, right? I am living my dream. I'm the happiest that I've ever been in my life. So coming back to, I think, Chumbak itself, I think we started off saying that let's do fun, interesting souvenirs. It's a problem that we wanted to solve, saying that each time we traveled abroad or we traveled anywhere else, we could bring back a part of India of that place back with us. And for us, we couldn't figure out why India didn't offer that opportunity. When people are coming to a Bangalore, they want to, there's nothing to take back. Souvenirs at the time were limited to probably what Genghis Khan came in 1600s and he took back, So there's a small replica marble Taj Mahal we've all seen, Pashmina shawls and stuff like that. So, but we've actually grown beyond that. I think one of the great things of, what we say, we have the youngest population in the world, is while this entire thing of, wanting to go abroad, wanting to seek other opportunities, saying this, all of that, I think this generation is also extremely proud to wear India on its sleeve. We're proud of India and we really want to show it. So I think that's one of the sentiments that we, kind of jumped onto and said that that's where the pivot happened actually. So we thought there'd be a lot of people, foreigners coming in, buying stuff, and the pivot happened literally about 25 days into starting the business, saying that, hey, listen, the people who are buying are not all the foreigners and people in hotels and airports. It's people like you and me. I love India and I want to show it off. And I think that's the insight that, we said it's not just souvenirs, it's a whole bunch of stuff. Today we sell stuff like the souvenirs from magnets, but we also sell sofas, we sell dinner plates, we sell accessories, we sell clothing. I think so it's all come about saying that India design is something that's people are looking forward to. It's familiar, it's something that we've grown up with, and that's, I think, one of the things that we learnt along the way, that we're proud to be Indian. I mean, that phase of, oh, my country's doing this, the bad roads, the traffic. It's such a, this thing saying that, at one end we're cribbing, but we're not going to leave this place. I love it here, right? So I think that's the kind of journey what we started.
Everybody lives like a developed country. The world can handle around probably 4 billion or so, right? Today we have 7, thanks to Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, right? So what we're trying to do, we are converting all of that into probably that vision as well. So we are not taking care of the planet element at all, right? So that is where I think some of the social venture thought is around. It is just not only the profit, right? I'm looking at the triple bottom line today, which is the profit plus the impact I'm making on people and also how light I'm on the planet. So this is a great opportunity because I'm really excited about the opportunities because we are still a predominantly an agriculture community, but the contribution of agriculture to the GDP is pathetic, right? A few reasons. So one is you could say that the production, whatever. So we have a company that I'm mentoring. He put technology, improve the productivity, then comes, where is the market, right? In India, the farmer gets probably 30% of what you pay. But in developed countries, it's 70 to 80%, right? So one of my recent investment dash farm to home. You take just purely vegetables in an electric vehicle with GPS, the driver carries tablet, Bluetooth printer, electronic weighing machine. It's like Reliance Fresh at your home. But no haggles of dealing with your third party person. And also a price transparency, you have a bill and directly from the farmer so that there is no intermediate, right? Just directly from the farm, it's coming there. It's doing fantastic. So with that, I think there is another increasing trend that it is very inspiring today is about the word organic, right? So which is nothing but what my grandfather used to do, right? We just in this whole street, he will dig up a place and tell and the entire street there's a dump all your waste in front of my house. Every 3 months, you just take it up, put it in the field, right? So that's what we have done. But on the way, a lot of things happened. I was in Punjab a few months back in a place called Sangarur. The milk, so today the water is contaminated. It has nitrogen. We all gone to bottled water. But the livestock drinks from that contaminated water. The milk comes from cow. You won't believe it. It has radiation, metals and all that stuff. People have cancer. So one of the high income states like Punjab, today they have to sell their lands for cancer treatment. So this is the potential. If every state is becoming towards that, what do we have, right? You can see from our own Vartur. So that's what I know Srinivas has done. A fantastic story. This is having a great potential as well because the organic today, it is providing a bit of premium as well. And he has fantastic products, not only a phenyl, right? What can you do? Can we go herbal? So can you just give some thought around how did you went about picking this space? And there is a myth around organic means it's very expensive, so then it is just purely for few people only could afford. So what are you trying on that side?
Actually, just to dial back a little bit, one of the things about entrepreneurship is I really couldn't imagine myself, the journey that I had as a student, sitting here today, in May 9, 2015, talking about detergents, right? So, I mean, I studied physics at IIT, then I came to IIM Bangalore, and I just didn't know how I ended up in consumer products, in the FMCG space, and I also really don't know, in the sense that I quit in 2009. In 2009, on Jan 31st, I told my wife that let's quit and do something. And one of the things that I realized then is that when I'm working, or when I'm in a job, I'm not able to really think about what I want to do, and I was not able to moonlight on the side and figure out things on the side in a low risk manner and do all of that. So one day I decided to take the plunge and just quit. And then I was confident that given myself time, we would figure out something to do. Actually, when I quit in 2009, I quit with an intention to start making films. So that was the first thing that I did. So I went and bought about 200 DVDs on Amazon. And I said, I'm going to watch 200 DVDs. So then what happened was, obviously, that was how I started. I had no idea of starting a company, that would one day go and create cleaning products and all of that. And then what happened was that, the farewell gift that I had from my earlier company was a huge stack of Lonely Planets. So one day I decided, I was watching movies, I got bored, and so we took off for 4 months to Europe, and we just, me and my wife were tooling around. It was my goal to kind of unlearn everything that I had, done in the past to figure out what I really wanted to do. And slowly, and I use the word organic here again, in an organic manner, we started, looking at lots of ideas that we had and what we could do and all of that. And I gave myself the luxury of time to do that. And I came up with some really rotten ideas, looking back, the first ideas are really, really bad. I have a notebook, a very large notebook, and we've written lots and lots of ideas about things that we could do. And they're all pretty bad. So while the idea of making films, and I also registered a company, to make films and all of that, that is still there on the side. And, I realized that obviously need tons and tons and tons of money. So the idea is to first, become a very successful entrepreneur in this company and maybe make films sometime, but that's a side note. So what happened was that over a period of time, I realized that working in consumer product sector, I could see the future that the consumer products that we're making have no environmental footprint at all in them. And I was a closet environmentalist, I guess, all along, and and realized that there are so many solutions that are already there in India, which are very effective, very local, very sensible, and take all constituents into place. So why are we not using them was the question. And me and my wife decided to detox our home and our lives and everything, and we're using a whole host of products at home that my wife actually does a lot of the formulations in our company, and they're working really well for us. And so one day we said that why don't we just start a company? These products are working well for us at home, and we're able to detox our lives. Surely there are going to be a few thousand other people, if not at least a few hundred other people, all the Facebook friends. I mean, Facebook was pretty new at that time, who'd want these products, and that's just how we started. And so the whole journey was, step by step it happened, and where we figured that there is the industry that we know, there are solutions that are there which are not being exploited, and people want them. I mean, for example, I asked a question which is related to this Vartur lake foaming up, which you said, that these detergents that are made by some of our favorite recruiters on campus, let's not name them now, many of whom, okay. So these detergents are there for the last 30, 40, 50 years, but what were we using to clean before that? I mean, we've been wearing clothes for a long time in India. I mean, India is known for textiles. So does anybody in the audience know, I mean, what were we using to clean clothing thousands of years ago? We were surely washing. I mean, we are a nation that prides itself on cleanliness. Water was available, clothing was there, but what were we doing? What were we having a bath with? What were we using for shampoos? I mean, we are a very clean, awesome nation. So when I looked around, then the solutions are there everywhere in India. I mean, one of the things that Naga mentioned was, about the resources of India. The resource that I'm really, really discovering now, which nobody knows anything about, in these sort of settings, are the trees of India. You will not believe the botanical variety that is there in India, the resources, the richness, the things that you can do with it, and the awesome stuff that is going on in that sector. along with the traditional Indian knowledge which is there, which is something that we are trying to, use to our advantage and build upon, and build a company where we use Indian resources, traditional Indian knowledge systems, and create solutions that are holistic for the Indian environment and the Indian consumer. So that's the story.
Shruti, when you started off, you said that, this pivoting, it's a new technique that you can say that, you don't need to say I failed. So there's a pivot. And also, there is a culture among us that if there is a failure, you get a chapa that is useless for life, right? So that's the another area that people fear that what will happen, if I fail. So there is, how do we probably change the culture of it? There is quite a lot in Mumbai. A few years back, we had an event called Startup Funeral, right? So we invited everybody that who failed and have that. So there is a mindset. In a developed country, people will call themselves a serial entrepreneur, right? But here we'll just hide, people remove the LinkedIn account and then go disappear, right? I'm just still searching one person I met 2 years back. I wanted to see because one of our NSR cell, Sachi, his PhD thesis around failures. So we're trying to figure out, who are all these people that we met 2 years back, started something not there, hard to trace. So in that culture, and Shruti was very happy to say that I failed, right? So what was the social pressure? Because, that is what putting us, right? What my, other spouse says or my mom says, what my friends say. These are all this voice of judgment is going around. We are not able to just make this plunge. But if you see all of them, it was not this, one day they woke up, they wrote a vision document and then started, doing this thing. It's all jump in, let's figure out, right? So can you just, what was your thought process around when, can I use the word fail? Let's celebrate failure. Let's not remove the word from our vocabulary and say, cover it up with different things, but can we celebrate a failure? Can you give some tips?
So I think the first thing, I'm a McKinsey trained consultant, with 2 master's degrees. The first thing I had to stop doing was using Excel, because I was constantly doing calculators on, kind of my lifetime value, how much money I would need to retire. I had friends from funds. We were constantly doing this stuff, right? Because there's no calculator, because the fundamental assumption in that calculator will change so much that it's a meaningless calculator. So I think you have to kind of put it aside. And then you come from a middle-class Tamil Brahmin community. And thankfully for me, I'm not married, or neither do I have kids. So I don't have that pressure or the, luxury of maybe having a fallback. But your, family and your mom and everybody would kind of be like, what? You're like giving up a consulting career or something else to do what? To build homes in Hosur? Like, so society here definitely, we're having this discussion here, but it's probably a very evolved portion of Indian society that we're seeing. But I think over time, you have to kind of set your benchmarks for yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. You've got to stop thinking about that batchmate who has the 20 crore home. There's somebody else who has something else, and say, what's going to make me happy? And if in, 3-5 years, if I've done this, and I'm of course going to do everything to try to make it succeed, but if it doesn't, and I'm not worth anything more, and I'm not on the cover of Time, and nothing's changed, would I still like this journey? And am I okay with it? Because I think what has changed in India is if you fail, there are opportunities to come back and do other things. That generation of 20 years ago, if you step out for 2 years, there's no way to get back into corporate, I think has changed. I think the biggest switch is really in your head to say that, what makes me happy, and to say, at some point, about 10 years ago, I was at a museum where a bunch of celebrities had written their obituaries. And for me, it was a bit of an aha moment then, because I actually sat and wrote it a couple of years ago. And I said, I don't want a lot of the material things or the things that, those are not the things that make me happy. Experiences make me happy. Even having failed in this, thankfully I can chalk up to an experience if that happens. If I am able to succeed, I don't necessarily need to say it has to be worth a certain valuation. It has to be so many million homes. Success can be self-defined. So I think if you can do that, the failure becomes much easier to take and pick yourself up and move on. And I think to, the points of it being a lonely journey, the biggest thing I still miss is a partner in crime. And we were talking about it, and he said, oh, I had my wife. And I was like, goddamn you, right? And you always find these dorm mates from IIT, batchmates from IIM Bangalore, Harvard Business School batchmates. I had a friend who moved to India, who went to Carnegie Mellon for public policy with me, moved to India to do this with me. So when we had our bad days, we would sit, drink Old Monk on the balcony, laugh, and it would be a better day. After 9 months, she said, sorry babe, can't handle India, can't handle housing, can't handle panchayat, and went back. And it got much harder. So I think if you can find, whether it's co-founder, whether it's core team, whether it's just a great support system, somebody to have that drink with and laugh about the day, I think that'll really, really help in dealing with failure and moving on.
So until recently, only this having a chai shop or a chai shop experience is fantastic, right? Whether you want to send your child to a chai shop or IIM, right? So all that happened. But I think Amluk is probably a visionary that, before our Prime Minister, he ended up focusing on that side. But this is not the swanky application and, iOS stuff, but you're just a typical good old chai shop, right? How did you convince the investor to put your money on?
Frankly, I'm just coming back to the same thing. That was a very large market. It is a very large market, right? I mean, every investor understands crores and thousands of crores. Everybody gets excited. So our thesis was the same then. Our thesis is the same now. It's a very large market. Certainly, there are a lot of other startups in tea. All of them are IIT backed. Now the investors are even more sort of thinking, yaar, kuch to ho raha hai yaar. I mean, yeah, 30,000 crore hai. Suddenly IIT wale sare chai kar rahe hai. Inhone bhi pehle khola hua hai. Kya hai? So, which is kind of same. I mean, frankly, I was just talking to someone and he mentioned that, Bessemer Ventures has this list called Unportfolio. The company in which they did not invest and they regret not investing. So Starbucks was on their list of Unportfolio, sorry. It's just, honestly, we don't even make big deal out of it. It's obvious it's a very large market. We have to go and execute. Our worry is on execution. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of talking to Vivek just soon after this panel and, brainstorm some design-related ideas on what we can do on our delivery flask and how in Diwali, I'm just sharing it now with you, right? So how in Diwali we can possibly have some prints on our, with every season the flask is going and they can be prints so that the customer is excited. Now, everybody is talking about food tech, right? And nobody thought about delivery, but if you go to Bombay, if you go to Delhi, by lanes or in Bombay, chai is delivered like crazy. They deliver it in polythene bags. Honestly, I've been when I was in RSA, I used to go to RBI a lot and talk to, the DGMs and the GMs around various security protocols which need to be introduced or whatever we could do with them on the banking side. I once took a lift and then I was about to take a lift and somebody said, let's walk. Let's kind of go by the steps. So I said, okay, 10th floor, okay, exercise. So we started walking. We saw a guy who was going in a sort of a gunny canvas bag. And I said, yeah, isme kya bada hai? So there were polythene bags all filled up with chai. And on the chai, on the polythene bag, there was a marker, 5th floor, 6th floor, 7th floor. So they would go, they would literally give it polythene bag at the floor. Then they would take it to the pantry, put it into nice fine china, and then the GM would get chai. No, and now, honestly, there's nothing wrong with it. No, it's Bombay. Ab RBI mein wo forex planning karenge, har ek floor pe chai banayenge. So obviously, the chai was coming from outside and it was great chai, but it was getting delivered. So now we are in a stage we are thinking that how to get this delivery all over. So we launched our own flask and we launched a 1 liter flask, then we are doing a half liter flask. So it's there in every market. I was talking to, about Korea. So there's a company in the US called Method, which, they have a tagline called People Against Dirty. And they started thinking that, all the pollutants come in and, a customer is getting sort of very conscious about the company, what it stands for. Sometimes I really think we have a tendency to overthink here and talk a lot of bullshit in the name of overthinking. We somehow feel that we've got so many fancy degrees and we need to be talking about, social sector, organic and all that. It boils down to a lot of simple things. The end consumer in pretty much every sector is concerned how that sector is doing damage or protecting the environment around. Every sector, be it electric vehicles, be it detergents, be it, the design sensibility. Am I being a kind of a superficial person and I am kind of against my values if I have to just showcase myself every time around with a Gucci or whatever, but why can't I just pick up great stuff from Fab India? Why can't I pick up great design products from Chumbak? I mean, all this is becoming a reality of the world in which we are living in. So for God's sake, all the super overeducated people should stop using superfluous, nonsensical words and just kind of evaluate as to how the consumer is going and where it's going. Talking about risk and failure, and my plan was very clear. I was there in tech sector, I was a country manager. If I failed, I would go back to them and said, I ran some business in the retail sector, now I have retail sector domain knowledge. No, it's true. It is so absolutely true. So if you're talking to somebody, let's say, I'm from a middle class family, and so, but if you're talking from somebody, let's say, who's in 12th class, 19 years old, has got 6 siblings, and let's say all 6 sisters, and there's hypothetical, okay, there's no father, and he's saying, I want to start a company. Then you have a discussion with him, okay, yaar, risk kya hai? What are the other options? But the discussion that I have end up having this about IIT. So what's your background? Computer science, IIT, Bombay, and then I did masters from there, and I'm worried about risk. Most of the time I say, don't waste my time and get out, right? Or I literally sometimes I just say it in that fashion. And I think in a place like this, when you sort of, I was having a chat with Rakesh, and I was just telling him, like, sometimes you just need to be absolutely blunt. All this, because this risk thing is in the mind. And using words, risk analysis, what's my career option post this, you're just creating a web of more and more things and intellectual terms to latch on. Boils down to what Vivek is saying. Are you passionate about something? Can you bounce back, if you fail? Have you thought of it logically? Are you getting the right support system? If you start something, and is your wife going to leave you, or is she still going to be with you? And things like that. Are your parents willing to give you that support? Great. Take a jump and come back. If not, sort of move on, right? And this sort of a plain talk, especially payload portals of IMB, needs to happen a lot more, because that is what connects. Because people are thinking, yaar, to bade words use kar rahe hain, risk analysis. वाकई यार इसमें को वाकई को बहुत रिस्क है, मेरे को वाकई एक्सेल निकालनी पड़ेगी. So that's the key, really. I mean, in our and I'm not. So all this irreverence is with a huge dose of humility. We have not cracked it, or we are not the Google of the world, right? As Vivek was saying, sleepless nights, lots and lots of work, full appreciation that is not the person. I'm just the spokesperson of my company, right? You take out our 5 best, 5 bhi chodo, 3-4 utha lo, and there's nothing, right? So all that is very, very true, and that's how it needs to be taken up. But the opportunity is very large. I mean, so we sell 1 lakh glasses a day of chai. We can take it to 10 lakhs in a few months. We've launched 3 flasks. We never thought, and no idea. Visionary is a completely wrong word for me. So we never thought that we could be delivering chai on the app. We never thought that we could create combos on the fly based on geofencing on the app. It's a matter of just doing. Somebody opens the app when our app in Indranagar, and if we have tied up with someone, his menu will flash up. Same guy opens up the app in Jayanagar, and we have not tied up with anyone, nothing will show up, only our products will show. But suddenly it starts looking, very exciting. And then we figured out delivery, let's do it on electric vehicles. Why? It was not that we were honestly environmentally conscious, because we were just looking at competition, but we realized for electric scooters, you don't need a license, you don't need registration, right? And then the first electric scooter that we bought was at 30,000. Then we realized government is giving subsidy that 30,000 is now 20,000, right? So, and then it also made sense parallelly that the consumer is concerned about. I mean, we realized it's a good thing to tell the consumer Now, we are not 100% green. Our flask is ultimately adding to the landfill. But the point is that, I'm touching on 2-3 points. Number one is that visionary is too great a word. The key is that as you go along, you discover a lot of things. But one thing is for sure, the age and state in which we live in, consumers are very concerned. Right? So somebody sent an email that, is your pouch BPA free? And the customer is very concerned. Now you've got to answer, we got the reports and got it done. Yes, it's absolutely BPA free. You have to tell customers. So I think that consciousness is definitely rising. That pride in India is definitely rising. That sense of design, absolutely, very, very important word for us, Vivek. The sense of design and appreciation of design is really rising, right? And especially if you are able to get the right kind of design around something which is core to your daily life, like chai, wow. You really get that kind of a wow from the consumer.
If you look at it, if you have this convents in 1960s, right, there is no food to eat, right? That's where our parents were. That's where some of your parents were there. So there was this kind of a security that don't do screw up, end up in streets. But we've come a long way from those scenarios that last 10 years of 7% growth and hope next 10%, probably next 10 years, we are done. So as you said, jump in if you've not figured out. If it doesn't work, you can always go back, because today in the country, if you know how to speak English, have a decent degree, and if you wear pants shirt, it's definitely probably you can survive, right? But that's why we've done in rural Tamil Nadu. I was telling that no English, no PowerPoint. Just you come back and tell your idea, we will support you, because there are a lot of regional engineering colleges doing fantastic talent, but they cannot compete with some of you in the room because they cannot speak English. So, but the opportunities are fantastic, and we are in the great time because we have next 20 years to build the country the way we want it. Otherwise, we are going to be dumped with some technologies later. Then we'll figure out, like you build an energy inefficient building and then you create a body to do a certification. Every house in a village is LEED 1000, right? So this is where the potential is. So with that, we'll open up for questions. We have around 15 minutes for questions. You can probably very specific, no observation, no comments. Just a question, please. Anyone?
Yeah, you typically see, and most examples keep coming from the retail space. Right? What is the opportunities that you see, or how does the B2B space look like for entrepreneurship? And is it different? Is it similar? Some kind of comparison, contrast between in that space.
Yeah, so we have today, there are 2 companies incubated in NSR Cell working on education space. So one is English Learning for Affordable Schools. She's a women entrepreneur. She's one of the best example coming out of NSR Cell. Actually 3. So there is one more about experiential learning. There's a lot going around, demystifying the myth around rote learning. Just bring in the experiential learning. There's a company called Science Hopper doing the experiential learning. Chipper Sage, English Learning, because she picked up the topic that everybody in this room can speak 2-3 languages, right? When you're a 5-year-old, without seeing any script. So that's what she's applying in English, and she's fantastic success, right? There is another lady is working around collaboration, right? How a teacher is collaborating with the student and the parents. There's a platform. So 2 hot sectors, relatively going on now is around education and healthcare. Yeah, please.
Yeah, any thoughts on the financial education basically in our complete educated system? Actually, there is nowhere there is any financial education, personal financial management or anything which happens. So any thoughts on that sector which you have especially?
So it's a potential, startup potential,
Yeah,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, so if you look at this finance, there is a great potential because only 8% of the country participate in capital markets, right? So there is quite a lot of disposable income coming up, but how scalable is what that you need to look at. So we have a women entrepreneur in our course, which is currently going on, called Amigo Bulls. So she's targeting what she calls the millennials, right? So she would, you put any ticket symbol, we all know that we are losing, our attention span is going down, right? So she created this 1.5 minute video. It's all visual, right? No more just searching around the data and all. You just put a ticket symbol, it just pop up a video immediately, real time. Just tell you 1 minute, what about that stock? So like that, some innovation can go in the B2C side. In B2B in India, it's not a market yet. That's why the digital consumer, there is quite a bit of euphoria because that's where today the market is. But the B2B side, if you go really work harder, we can look it up, but B2C, if you can focus, there's a lot of potential. Any other questions for the panelists? Yes. Yeah. Sure, Vivek.
So actually, trial and error, number one. So you try everything. I think one of the things that, I mean, it sounds a little brash, but hire fast, fire faster is something that we've learned. The other thing I think in terms of hiring is two things that we do. One is what people don't take, what people don't think about or take a little lightly is the culture of your organization, right? There is a certain culture of the organization, something that you said, people this thing. We have a culture test, which is conducted by a 26-year-old person. So even if I'm hiring someone at 40, 45, the 26-year-old person will interview that person for a culture test. The other thing that we do is that, just to connect it to failure, I love hiring failed entrepreneurs. They're just amazing. They've come out of something saying that, I tried this, market conditions, didn't get funded, really big company who I was competing against got funded, and then that's why I died, and all of that stuff. They bring a wealth of information, they build a wealth of experience, and most importantly, they bring hunger. And that I have something yet to prove, and that kind of work ethic is not possible anywhere else. So I think these are the kind of things that we look everywhere. So we have, incoming, we have recruiters who cold call people, and a lot of the time, attitude is the number one thing that we look for, as I said, right? In my book, attitude is above skill. Skill can be taught, but if you don't have great attitude, nothing matters. So I think that's one of the key learnings that we've had over a period of time, saying that attitude. So if I find someone today and I'm not looking for it, I will create a position for that person in the company, knowing that that person will be an asset to the company. But it's one of the toughest things to do. While I talk about it, it's one of the toughest things to do is hiring.
Any other question? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to stress on this.
Oh, yeah, please, yeah.
So this is very important. At least my time, 60, 70% should go into this, and if it doesn't, I'm doing something wrong. I've realized that referrals are great. There is no systematic approach. So literally as a team, we connect, okay, so what do you think of this guy? Do you know someone? Okay, anyone in that startup? So it's the referral thing, especially in the core team, right? Or in the management level team, which I think works great. We don't have a culture test, but we do check it out for culture. So we have a policy of 3 of the core team members conducting the interview, and all 3 have to say yes before we hire someone. And the 3 senior guys could be any amongst 5, 6 of us. So that's very important. The other thing is, honestly, the one reason why I come to such events is because we are searching for good people. It works. Honestly, some of the best people that I've come across have been in such interactions. So I'm very, very open. This is my ulterior motive to make sure that I attend such events where we look for great people all the time.
Right. So whoever has mic, please go ahead. I couldn't trace. Go ahead, please.
So I would like to hear, these are more at initial stages of startup. There's always this big challenge of, funding and cash burn and control. Control here is like how to keep the burn rate as down and as tight as possible. How do you, there are 2 ways of generating some funding, customer acquisition or, funding. How do you balance these things out as some of the core group members? How do you divide your roles, responsibility? How do you go about doing that?
So you're talking about delegation? How do you delegate? Is that?
Not delegation. It's more of, there are things which are burning constantly. So 3 months.
Okay, firefighting versus strategy. Is that?
You don't have buffer. You don't have. So you need to balance number of
Sure.
critical
Yeah.
things.
So
I'm not sure if I got exactly what you're trying to say, but see, we are a completely self-funded company, and to address the question of this whole thing about money is that every day there are going to be lots of crazy things happening. That's the reality. Even 5 years, even after 5 years, I don't have a single normal day. Every day something new and weird crops up, and I have to solve that. So most of the times you don't have the time to worry about it. And yet I've realized that if you give me 3 months to solve a problem, and let's say 15 minutes to solve it, my answers are pretty much so good. So one of the things we learned is that there are creative solutions that you will have to come up with every day, and you will have to and you will be able to do it once you're faced with it. The whole thing is you can't figure out. You can't have a plan on paper and say then you have to start, and then you will have to figure out certain creative solutions. For example, you don't realize what all skills that you have, right? And if you want to cut costs, for example, one of the many things that we did was, in our company is that, for example, in a consumer products company, you will want to start hiring marketing people, but then we realized that we have a lot of innate talent in co-founders, and we started doing a lot of the work ourselves, right? Initially we thought of hiring marketing people, and I said that we are all pretty good at writing copy, at writing design, all that. We saved, I can't tell you the number of lakhs that we've saved in doing a wonderful design ourselves and writing copy, which is true because we know the brand well, written in our own words, and using the ideas that really represent the brand to us. Whereas if I had gone to an outside agency, it would have cost us lakhs and lakhs, and I may not even have been happy with the result and taken a lot of time. So this is just an example of how you can forever, on the fly, figure out how to save costs, or and keep it moving along. So, every day something new will come, but you'll also figure it out. That's how it works.
Again, on the funding thing, I also work with 3 social entrepreneurs, one in vocational training, one in neonatal health, and one in environmental awareness. Especially in the social sector, but for profit, I think you can really widen your glance when you're looking at funding options, as well as, what that implication on your time and how you get sucked up into that process, which is between, we, for instance, found that in one part of our business, going after grant money was the answer, which is the access, building footbridges in Uttarakhand. There's no point in me going after impact money, mil bhi jayega, but then I'll be answering questions that I'm just not kind of willing to, make those decisions on. So I think depending on where you fall in the spectrum, today there's HNI money, there's angel networks, depending on what stage you are. But really look at, are they aligning with the plan that you have, knowing that things will change on both sides? Or is there going to be some fundamental disconnect? Because very honestly, all the 3 entrepreneurs I work with, so much of their time in year 2, 3 of the organization has gone through the parade of investors, of 30, 40 investors that they've met. There's always seems to be some disconnect. Some go to term sheet, ho jata hai, and they're like, when do we run the damn business? Where do we have the time for it? And it really comes from that initial, the entrepreneur not knowing what am I seeking, right? Most of the time I found myself that, am I trying to scale? Do I want to build that story? What am I doing with it? Or no, I actually want to bootstrap, figure life out. So when you have that clarity, the time you spend on raising money, whether you're going after customer acquisition, cost, or am I going after grant money? Am I going after big HNI? Am I going after impact investment? Am I going after PE, VC? Really gets far clearer.
Sir, please.
Yeah.
Sir, some of the most famous and successful entrepreneurs in the world have either been college dropouts or experiential learners. So, the question I had was, see, we have like Harvards and Carnegie Mellons here. So, is there any learning, academic or non-academic, that you have like taken and put into your ventures, or are we all just kidding ourselves here with our, fancy degrees?
So, hey, Vivek will touch on, but Muruganandam is going to talk a lot about it. You're going to hear that story up. We'll have 1 hour of that. Can we take one more, have 4 more minutes?
So a lot of people say, college dropouts, Harvard dropouts and stuff. We got to Harvard first. Number 1. Second, I don't have an IIT. I am nothing. My last degree is a BA Economics, and that's it. Does it help? Of course it helps. Does it help in understanding what kind of... It helps in 2, 3 ways. 1, understanding the basics. Second, your peers, your friends, your networks. Those are something that I had to build. And that is one of the things that, but otherwise, it's honestly, as I keep saying, it's up to you. It's really not, is my education great enough? Am I wasting my time? Am I not wasting my time? I don't believe that. But
I agree. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and there is no single bullet answer, as far as I'm concerned, going to Harvard was a goal. And, just so couldn't make it to IT. I said, okay, let's make it to the best school out there. Got the goal. But what happened was that at Harvard, I realized the most important aspect of education, and that is how to think. It's not the degree. And there I realized that the thinking is creation, entrepreneurship, and that whole mindset of thinking came to me while studying there. Now, had that thinking come to me while I was still doing my engineering, right, with that kind of confidence, I don't think I would have anchored for HBS. And had this thinking did not come to me while I was in HBS, I would possibly still in a corporate job, right? So I think the degree and the confidence has got very little to do with it. It's the ability how to think. We teach knowledge, we teach do this, figure out these are the models, but those models never apply in the real world. So fundamentally, the most important thing is how do you think? What is your approach to thinking? And all those guys who are kind of dropouts or don't go to big schools, if you go through their experiences, something would have happened which would have structured their ability to think. And they got confidence with it, and then they took the decision.
That's about it. So we have a lot of great stories, right? There is this Ramaraj card in Tamil Nadu, right? The guy wore a veti and went to the bank. The security stopped. He said, I'm going to change this. Today is a 600 crore business, right? And he put advertisement. The guy wearing dhoti walks. The guy with his jacket salutes him. He changed the perception. With that, we'll conclude. Thanks a lot. You've been a great audience. They've been around. And we have a 5 minutes break, and then we will hear Muruganandam. Thanks a lot.